Hi, my name is Samantha Woods. I'm the director for the North and South Rivers Watershed Association. Welcome to River Restoration Stories. We're here today in a neighboring watershed, the Back River Watershed, and we're here to meet with Mary Ellen Schloss, who is the Town of Weymouth's conservation agent. She's going to share with us a little bit about her knowledge of the Back River, some of its challenges, and some of its potential for restoration. Hi, Mary Ellen.
Hi, Samantha.
Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
So Mary Ellen, can you tell us just a little bit, sort of orient our students in Weymouth about the Back River, where it starts, where it ends, what's important about the Back River?
Yep. So the Back River is a coastal river, empties into Boston Harbor at the Back River estuary, an area of critical environmental concern. Its headwaters are Great Pond, which is a public drinking water supply, so it serves a very important role for the town. Back River is also fed by the Old Swamp River, which has its headwaters in Rockland and in Hingham, and students might be familiar with it when they drive on Route 3 in the median. If you look in between the north and southbound lanes, there's a nice green stretch, and the river runs through there. So surprisingly enough, it's one of the most pristine sections of the river because it's untouched. You wouldn't think so, but it is.
In between the highways is the most pristine section, and the headwaters to this river down here. So,
well, the Old Swamp River feeds Whitman's Pond, the Mill River, which comes from Great Pond. So Great Pond empties into the Mill River, empties into Whitman's Pond, and Whitman's Pond feeds the Back River. So in the estuary, there are a couple of rivers that come in from Hingham, but for this stretch where we're standing right now in Herring Brook, it's all coming from Great Pond and Whitman's Pond.
Neat. So what makes the Back River so special?
Well, many reasons, and I think everybody in Weymouth is familiar with our beloved river herring run. It's one of the most productive in the state, and we have an average of 300,000 fish that come up every year. I think the highest was something like 950+ thousand. The lowest was a sad 31 or so thousand, but this year we were about average 300,000, but it is a sight to behold. It is really just fascinating. One of the most amazing things that you can see is just wall-to-wall fish. So that's one of the things that makes it very special, but there's other diadromous fish species, so species that live part in the ocean, part in freshwater, including the rainbow smelt, American eel, and white perch. So
it's really a beautiful space. Particularly that, part with the ACEC, the tidal part.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I think most people are familiar with that.
Right, people may be familiar with the Osprey Overlook Park, which is on an old landfill, and Great Esker Park, which is just a treasure. And both sides of the river are protected, which is nice. Bear Cove Park in Hingham, so it is a wonderful spot if people haven't gotten there.
Great. So Mary Ellen, besides yourself, can you tell me a little bit about who else is looking out for this river? Who else is a steward of this river? Because clearly it has been maintained and cared for.
It takes a lot of work, and just so much credit goes to the Weymouth herring wardens, who are unpaid volunteers who are out here between March and the fall, every day, checking the fish ladders, making sure the fish are getting in, making sure the fish are getting out. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little more detail. So kudos to them. We also have the Back River Watershed Association, who's worked tirelessly to protect the river and advocate for the river. Linda D'Angelo, the president, they do a great job. We've got the Whitman's Pond Association that looks at protecting Whitman's Pond. And, we have a lot of partners in the state. The Division of Marine Fisheries has been really instrumental. The anadromous fish folks, and Fish and Wildlife, and Division of Ecological Restoration. So we have lots of partners. And, the mayor has been very supportive of restoration and protection of the river. So
that's great. It's such a wonderful community resource, and it's great to know that there's so many people and hands helping to make sure that it's maintained and as healthy as it can be.
It's critical.
So Mary Ellen, can you tell us a little bit about some of the main concerns and challenges for this river system?
Sure, there are quite a lot. Just to name the major ones, I would say water quality is always an issue. Stormwater pollution, we have a lot of impervious surface, a lot of really commercial industrialized land use, especially in this area of Jackson Square. So stormwater runoff can contain, oil and pollutants and sand and salt and other debris. We have a lot of accumulation of sand and sediment in the herring run, in the resting pools that has to get dredged out periodically. And there's a concern about spills and what that would do and whatnot. We have the age and the state of the infrastructure is huge. Weymouth is an old town. We've got infrastructure, dams, bridges, culverts, tunnels that are failing, have failed. And we're standing right near a project that was done last year at great expense to try to fix some of that failing infrastructure. So that's a big one. We've got some invasive plants in Whitman's Pond that are affecting water quality and habitat and recreation. And the one that is particularly concerning at this time in August 2022 in a drought is lack of water. So, we have competing uses with the public drinking water supply, which is of course critical, and the aquatic ecosystem. So both need water. Obviously, the public needs water for, bathing and drinking and flushing the toilets and everything else that we do with it. But the fish and everything else needs water to survive. Without the water, they die. So in summer, this is always really challenging. In fall, early fall, very challenging because it's the time when naturally water levels are at their lowest. But people are irrigating their lawns and filling their swimming pools and washing their cars and everything else. So we always ask people, do you really need to water that lawn? I mean, it's gonna come back, but the fish, without the water, they're gonna die. So that's a big challenge, and we try to work together, Department of Public Works, the herring wardens, conservation, to manage it, but it's tough.
Yeah. So you were saying right now the lack of water is a challenge. How is it particularly a challenge for the herring run?
In the spring, there's a lot of water. Fish can get up to Whitman's Pond. The adults get up there, they spawn, they come back out. There's usually plenty of water. The problems begin when the water levels drop and the juveniles, the babies, need to get out of the pond. And Weymouth has a pretty early run. Those juveniles start moving out of the system in early July, which is pretty early. And if there's not enough water in those fish ladders, they can start to make their way out and they can get stranded. So we've had situations where we've had thousands and thousands of fish, die in the ladders. And so the herring wardens are very, very attuned to that, and so they have to, sometimes they insert screens at the entrance to the fish ladder at at Iron Hill Dam, and just to make sure that the babies don't get into the ladders and get trapped there. So that is one of the major challenges, and pumping. How much do we pump? Or not at South Cove? That's a big one because that is part of the fishery, yeah.
So how many dams do the fish have to traverse in the system?
Well, if you break it down to all of the dams, there's about 7 of them. But the major ones are here at Jackson Square, at Iron Hill, and Whitman's Pond. And hopefully you can capture some footage of that. They're really amazing. The one at Iron Hill is a huge fish ladder I'm talking about to get the fish over the dam. But then we have some smaller ones. And those are critical to passing the fish.
And all of those dams are really part of your drinking water supply as well, right? Most of them, part of the reason for these dams at this point.
I would say that the Great Pond Dam certainly is.
Yeah.
So that's the one that's holding back Great Pond and keeping those water levels at their required level in Great Pond. That is definitely a drinking water supply dam. Some of the other ones are really flood control structures.
So they're serving a real purpose and need right now.
They're serving a critical purpose.
There's no chance of removing.
Oh, absolutely not. No, we just rebuilt the Iron Hill Dam, and that was to protect, life and property from flooding, and we've got a flood control tunnel that runs through here. So no, that infrastructure is not going away. It has to be repaired, has to be maintained. But we can talk a little bit about some thoughts for the future upstream.
One of the things that we're sharing with the students is in other watersheds where we're removing dams, but you can't always remove a dam, or you can't always remove the obstruction. There's just too much public safety involved. And we've built up around these places, and so that means, though, that we as stewards have to go that extra mile or 10 miles to make sure that the parts of the river that we can keep healthy, that we do, and it's difficult.
It's very difficult, and we actually have put together a whole map of infrastructure challenges and issues. We've got bridges, tunnels, we've got areas where the run goes from a river into a concrete pipe, into a brick culvert, and the changes in velocity and everything will really affect the fish and their ability to move in and out. And so our herring wardens are very attuned to that, and have a lot of concerns about different spots where we've got critical challenges, and just hoping that we can stay on top of it. And but that is a lot of our effort, is just maintaining this infrastructure, keeping an eye on the challenges, and keeping the fish moving through the system.
So Mary Ellen, what kinds of restoration projects have been done, and more importantly, what could be done in the future to help restore this river even more? Right,
great question. So, since this is an old community with so much infrastructure, as we talked about, we haven't done a lot of restoration, but there has been some very significant protection of the river, which has been fantastic for preserving the river and its value. Down near the estuary, we've got the Great Esker Park. And the area of critical environmental concern. So there's a lot of the estuary, the salt marshes, and land abutting the estuary that has been protected in perpetuity. That is critical. We've got lots of watershed land up by Great Pond, which is protected in perpetuity for the protection of the drinking water supply. In between that, we've got, just a lot of built-up areas, and there's not probably a lot of room for restoration. We've got one small project on the old Swamp River that we're working to take down a small dam. But other than that, we do have some thoughts for the future. Which I'd like to share a little bit. So the herring now spawn in Whitman's Pond. So they get up all these ladders we've been talking about, and they spawn in Whitman's Pond. Whitman's Pond holds about 400 or so million gallons of water, and is about 200 acres in size. Historically, the herring spawned in Great Pond in South Weymouth, which is our major reservoir, right? That is about twice as big. That holds about 1 billion gallons of water and is about 550 acres in size. So if we could get the herring up there, it would be a tremendous benefit for the species. And this is going to benefit not just Weymouth, but it's
the whole ecosystem, Gulf of Maine.
Gulf of Maine ecosystem. It would be a huge, huge thing.
Really awesome.
But how do you do that when you've got a drinking water supply there? Really, I mean, it just not clear that it would at all be possible, with the current configuration, because the Great Pond Dam, it really doesn't release any water or much water at all in the summer and the fall months. So you might be able to get fish up there in the spring. We do have a few dams that have to be removed. Smallish ones. They don't seem like major obstacles. We're working with the Division of Marine Fisheries to look at those. But the real question would be getting enough water in the Mill River to get the fish up and get the fish out. Yeah. So there's people that are very excited about this idea. The herring wardens, the Conservation Commission, and Mayor Headland is interested in it, which is fantastic. And he's looking at other potential supplies of water, which is really what Weymouth would have to do.
Yeah.
And we're getting to that point anyway, because we have so much growth in the community. We're nearing the limit of what we can take out of the system. So there's a potential. So people should stay tuned, and it's going to be a lot of discussion in the future, hopefully.
That's
but
exciting.
That's the real big prize, is if we could get herring up to Great Pond.
So Mary Ellen, what are some things that the students in Weymouth and people in Weymouth can do to help protect and restore their own rivers and waterways?
Right, so I would say right now in this drought of August 2022, definitely conserve water. And the biggest thing is you don't have to water your lawns. Lawns will turn brown, they'll come back when it rains again. Right. Brown lawn is a responsible lawn, that's so right. That's a main thing. We can plant vegetative buffers around wetlands and ponds and rivers. That helps protect the water quality, it filters pollutants, and is great for local wildlife as well. Don't use chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Don't ever put anything down a storm drain.
Yeah, right.
Right? Exactly. They all drain to the wetlands and whatnot. Participate in local cleanup days. We've got our annual herring run cleanup. We've got the spring cleanup with the town. We've got coast sweep in the fall. You see trash, pick it up. Right. And get involved. Get involved. We always need help. Our herring wardens need help. We could use some new blood out there, and think positive and think globally, act locally.
Exactly. You heard it here, folks. There's something everybody can do to help restore and protect their rivers. I hope you'll take it to heart. Get out, get involved, join one of the local watershed groups, come to the herring run, help out with the cleanups, and you can be part of the solution. And I want to thank Mary Ellen for her time today to take out of a very busy schedule trying to protect the waterways and wetlands in Weymouth to share her local knowledge.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Samantha.
Thanks.